Felipe Gambarelli. Pipes and Bees. Felipe, how you doing? Hey Tim. Hey Jay Evans. Just prepping my pipe that I'm about to smoke. This is the most recent Stanwell that I've bought. And now that the Danish pipe shop Vintage Flake is back in the fold, it's hard to resist. My first pipe today. I haven't smoked anything yet today, since yesterday afternoon, in fact. Yeah, I'm really happy about it. To be honest, it's one of those things which I think it's just... I don't think there's anything necessarily particularly special about this tobacco. It's just one of those things which you click with, you know. It's a very fairly run-of-the-mill straight Virginia, but it just works for me. I don't know what it has in particular, but it's just something which hits a sweet spot on my palate. And I think whenever I get the opportunity, I'm gonna stock up on it, because you know, you never know what's around the corner. I'm not gonna have hundreds of tins, but I just got in 3 tins, and there's hopefully another 2 on the way. And I think whenever I get the opportunity, which probably won't happen more than once or twice a year, if that, I'll just get a couple more tins each time. I think it's a worthwhile investment. If you find something that you like, then why not? Yeah, Tim, absolutely. It's a fairly straightforward Virginia, but it just seems to work for me. Hi Suffolk, how you doing? So what was round 2 with you and John? Were you on somebody else's live today? Oh yes, I saw he did a matinee. I haven't had the chance to watch it yet. I haven't tried it in this pipe yet, because by the time I'd run out of this tobacco, I got this pipe after that. Hey Josh. So we'll see how it smokes. We'll see if the tobacco and the pipe are a match made in heaven. I'll have to take a look at that supper. Hey, Titanic swim team. Hi, Pet. How you doing? So you're really into the meerschaums. Did you not have any meerschaums before this one that you just got now, this basket one? I'm smoking the vintage flake from the Danish pipe shop at the moment. Titanic, I haven't had a chance to watch your latest video. Look, I see from the title that somebody's been milkshaked, obviously, since I've been on. Dunhill Flake, nice. I must be honest, I've really enjoyed the Dunhill Flake recently. The 2015 batch. It's a lot better with that, with those few years of age, I must say. It's a nice blend in any event. Hey Chad. It's a nice blend, but it really gains a little bit of sweetness with those few years. This tobacco is good. Hey, cool. How you doing? Welcome. 2017. Well, from the time it was actually made, it's probably a couple of years, which is a good start. Hey, David. How you doing? This is Danish Pipe Shop Vintage Flake, and I'm smoking it in the most recent Stanwell, and it's tasting delicious. I may well have found my #1 blend. When I was going through this, I was motoring through that tin, that second bit of the tin. I knew it was something that I was going to be hooked on. But I really expected this not to taste as good because it's fresh. And the first time I tasted it fresh, going back a year and a half ago, I really didn't like it. It was exactly as Tim said, a very straight Virginia cigarette-y kind of flavour. But I think my palate has just changed, that's all. And I'm really able to perceive the complexity of this blend. When I say complexity, I'm not going to say it's a hugely complex blend, but it's got some lovely, lovely flavours. It really has. I wouldn't say it's subtle, but it's not in your face. So it is something to be sort of savoured. Not quite as subtle as Full Virginia Flake. I find that title to be very misleading. I find Full Virginia Flake to be a very subtle blend. Hey Art, how you doing? Yeah, Full Virginia Flake, if you're taking it straight out of the tin, cool, it's going to be wet, yeah. I've never actually done that. I've never zapped anything I've never nuked anything, as my sister-in-law would say. She's American. She nukes things in the microwave. Art, I got an email from Vermont Freehand. That wouldn't be anything to do with you, would it? He said it was anonymous. just told me to expect something which somebody's sending me as a gift from Vermont Freehand, which is extremely exciting. I've got no idea what it is or who it's from. Hamza. My favourite Virginia at the moment is Danish Pipe Shop Vintage Flake, as I've just been saying. I must be honest that when I first started smoking it, I did, this time round, I started thinking that it was purely a rebadged Orlik Golden Sliced, but I don't think it is. But I do need to smoke Orlik Golden Sliced a little bit more on its own, because I've always only used it in London Fog. But on its own, I haven't really gotten intimate with it yet. What's that, Chad? What are you smoking? Some Dolakia Madras Toast. What is that? Is that a tobacco? Never heard of it. Suffolk, just seeing your comment about the 1820. It is good stuff, it really is. Oh, snuff. This one is Stanwell, yeah. Although it's not marked. I bought it on the Danish Pipe Shop a few weeks ago. It's an unmarked pipe, but it's pretty... I mean, they were sure it was Stanwell. It came in a Stanwell sock and box. Not that that means anything, but it's fairly obvious that it's a Stanwell, isn't it? You can tell by the silverwork, the stem. It really is quite classic. I imagine this was either by somebody who's taking it out of the workshop, or there was some issue with the pipe which they weren't happy to badge it, but I can't for the life of me find anything wrong with it. Cool, that would make sense. I think for a lot of people that makes a lot of sense. Some people smoke Virginias all the time and Latakias all the time, but I think a lot of people do what you've just been saying, which is in the summer, hotter days, to have more Virginia-y type of tobaccos, and in the winter to have something fuller, spicier, something to warm the cockles of your heart in the cold winter nights. Cal Delta, how you doing? Which one's that, Suffolk? Which tobacco are you talking about? Is it a copy? Are you talking about 1820? 1820 is Penzance. Escudo is a vapor. 1820 is a Latakia blend. Yeah, or Balkan. Yeah, it's supposed to be the same ingredients, bar a couple of minor ingredients. It's supposed to be the same as Penzance. Hey, Razvan. Tobacco with Oriental, David. Well, a lot of the tobaccos that I smoke do have Orientals in them, but so far I haven't really gotten into Oriental forward blends. But most of the sort of kitchen sink type of English blends will have Orientals in them. I'm out of the news today. I haven't seen any news. I can see that obviously you've had some earthquakes up there, Chad. I don't know, Tim. I've only ever had the McClellan stuff. I think I've got a tin or two of that flying around somewhere. Cool, that's always a good feeling. You said you were about 3 months in, and that's about the right time, certainly in my experience, that it takes to really get the hang of, well, to start, let me not say really get, but to start getting the hang of loading, lighting, packing, preparing, and really getting all of the planets to align, if you like, when you're loading them. And you get to a point where it becomes second nature. You don't even think about it. That must be pretty scary, Chad. I must be honest that here in the UK, earthquakes are extremely rare, and if they do happen, they're really low down the Richter scale. There have been some up north, in the last. People are starting to talk about it being caused by fracking and things like that. But yeah, that must be scary. I mean, if it happened here to an extent where things were swaying around, you know, I think there'd be a lot of people in England panicking because it would be a new experience. I imagine it would be a panicky experience for anybody, even those who are experienced with it. But here in the UK, I think people would panic something serious. It's funny you should talk about earthquakes. I was talking with my kids today about um, an earthquake which happened in the 1800s in Tzfat, in Israel. Tzfat is somewhere, I think it's up north. Been there, I think, once in my life, and it's very well known for it was a hotbed of Kabbalistic sages going back a few hundred years ago, and even earlier than that, even in the times of the temple. Um, but the description, there was in the 1820s or something like that, there was a catastrophic earthquake there, and the settlement at the time, everybody lived very happily together at the time. It was probably a combination of Jews and Arabs living together and generally living in relative harmony. And 80% of the population of the town was killed in that earthquake. And all the synagogues were razed to the ground in a split second, except for one. The story that I was telling my kids was about the story of this rabbi who protected his flock in the synagogue, and that one synagogue stayed up. But what I wanted to bring out was that the description of the earthquake. And the description of the earthquake was that it wasn't like an earthquake where you get this rumbling and things starts to move and you start to see cracks in the ground, in the road, and things start to collapse. It was the description was the earthquake was the ground twitched like the muscle of a horse. You watch the rippling of the muscles of a horse, like it's got a fly on its back or something, and it just sort of twitches like that to get rid of the fly. He said that was the description of that earthquake. So you can imagine that everything literally in a split second just crumbled. It wasn't something which was an effect which grew as the earthquake went on. It was literally a split second, and literally the whole town just collapsed pretty much. Anyway, that was quite a frightening description, I thought. Anyway, the Dunhill blends. I guess some of you have seen my video on that. I've got mixed emotions about that one, mixed feelings about it. Chances are it won't be precisely the same. But I do feel for, although not many people share my sentiments, but I do feel for Sheraton's or Tor. I think it is the company that's Scott Vine, I think his name is. We met him at the Pipe Show at the Pipe Club of London a few months back. Whoopsie daisy. Well, yeah, that's an argument, Tim. But I think, all's fair in love and war. I don't think that anybody was trying to rip them off. They went away and made blends to try and satisfy a gap in the market. I don't think it was a question of them trying to steal the copyright, if you like, of Dunhill blends. They had gone away. There was a gap in the market. I don't think it was a question of ripping off Dunhill. Josh. Well, I don't feel sorry for people who have stocked up, because they'll have the last iteration of genuine Dunhill. No harm in that. Which isn't really Dunhill. It hasn't been Dunhill since it was made in Jermyn Street or Ireland or whatever it was that made it, Murray's or whoever. I must admit that over the past few months I have, when I've been to St James's, and I haven't been that often recently, but whenever I went I picked up the odd tin here and there, and I just slowly added to my I've got a container of Dunhill blends, so I've got a selection of a few of the blends that I like. It's all about supply and demand, Titanic, absolutely. Well, talking about cigars and supply and demand, it seems that the world can't get enough of Cuban cigars, despite the lack of American trade. I was at the Salta Cigars last week. I popped in there, and the guys there were talking about it. Originally, it would have been. I don't know if they were all made there, but certainly they custom blended stuff all the time for customers. The last blender who was on site at Jermyn Street was Mark Burrows, somebody that I've been trying to contact for a while. Without success. But a lot of times you'll find on the market, especially places like Pipe Stud and these kind of websites that have vintage tobaccos, you'll find blends which you've never heard of, Dunhill blends in Dunhill tins. They'll just have a number on them, much like 965, but it'll be a number that you wouldn't necessarily have heard of. And a lot of those will be custom blends. They used to literally blend. They say that they used to go into the shop and say, I've got this issue or that stress or a headache or an earache or whatever it was, and the guy, obviously tobacco is not a medicine, but the guys there used to blend tobaccos on the spot to try and match the customer's preferences. The Rattrays Dark Fragrant is quite nice. It reminds me of some of the McBaron, like the Dark Twist, that kind of thing. but I think it needs time. To me, it was okay for the first half of the bowl, and then it was a little bit harsh and not as enjoyable. So I've jarred it up, and we'll see. We'll revisit it every so often and see if it improves. I think it's Virginia Cavendish, if I'm not mistaken. So the Virginias should... is it a Vapor? I thought it was a Virginia Cavendish. I might be wrong. Here's the doodah. I thought it said on it what it is. Oh, it is Perique. Black Virginia blend with Perique. Why didn't I know that? For some reason I thought it was a Virginia Cavendish. Yeah, I've smoked the medallions. I do have a tin in my cellar, a sealed tin, but I'm not opening it. I found it to be very, very similar to Dunhill Navy Rolls, but just a little bit milder. And Navy Rolls is not that strong as it is. I don't smoke aromatics that often, but when I do smoke them, I don't find that they give me a headache. So maybe that is just you. Well, maybe if I know it's Perique, maybe in my mind will play games and make it taste better. Who knows? This vintage flake, I must say, it's really got it on a lot of levels. It's got some good flavours. It's also got a good retrohale, quite a spicy retrohale. Well, Hamza, you know, if you don't enjoy it, don't smoke it. Unless you're into sadomasochism. Say no more. Favourite vapor? Well, I've got to say at the moment, although I'm really smoking much more Virginias than vapors at the moment, my palate does flit around quite a bit. But if I was choosing a vapor, and not necessarily because of the Perique, I'd probably say the McClelland's St James Wood. It's just got a delightful overall profile and a wicked retrohale. And as I say, I'm not even sure that it's the Perique, because if you smoke some of this stuff, 40th anniversary or most of the Christmas cheers, you'll get that same sort of richness and bouquet of flavours, searing retrohale. Just great stuff, McClelland's. I think that once you've sort of gone past the initial honeymoon period when you've started smoking a pipe, and you've gone through that initial phase of smoking aromatics, and then you've moved on to Latakias and possibly Virginias and vapors, then to go back to aromatics, I find that a bit more challenging. And I think that if you find good ones, then that's something, then presumably that's going to be a really high quality aromatic, similar to what I've been experiencing with Erin Moore, because the Virginias there is the main player. It's a quality flake, and some of the Garth Hogarth tobaccos that we got recently at the Nottingham Pipe Show, those ones also, the foundation of those blends is quality Virginia flakes. Hey Tree, how you doing? Hi Meeks. Pipe Brazil, hello my brother, hello my friends in YouTube. Cabby's mixture is a nice blend. Yes, it is wet to start with. It's got quite a rich flavour profile. It's richer than most vapors, I dip into it every so often, but I find it after a while it gets a little bit graty on my palate. I find it to be a little bit too full for me to enjoy it on a sort of a regular basis. Pipe Brazil, I don't like calling you Pipe Brazil. I don't know your name. If you want to share it, then please do. If not, I'll carry on calling you Pipe Brazil. Tommaso. How you doing, Tommaso? Do people call you Tommy or Tommaso? Tommy. I will try to remember. I can't promise that I will. My memory is not the best in the world, but I will try. I'm drinking some tea, some Earl Grey. Fancy a change. It's drinking coffee all the time. So I've been interacting with. Any of you guys know Bullfrog Pipes, Jeremiah, and also see what I mean about my memory. Alright, let me get my other phone and check my Instagram. Hang on. Phil Rivara, sorry, it's jumped into my head. They both reached out to me, which is really very nice of them. They've been watching my progress with my pipes, and they've kind of been giving me advice and helping me along. So I'm going to be making use of that. I'm going to, rather than, I mean, I probably will still make some more pipes in the near future, but I want to revisit some of the pipes that I've made. So this one here, which the pipe itself came out very well. Obviously, the grain sort of makes a huge difference, the fact that it's a beautiful grain. But the stem, I'm going to remake. It's not terrible, but it's not right, that's for sure. The pipe itself came out very well. I'm very happy with that. I don't think I need to do anything else to the pipe. But the stem, the shape of it, that's a bit weird. It's a bit narrow. Oh yeah, Phil definitely knows his stuff. I mean, his metalwork is unbelievable, and Jeremiah's work is also great. He's got this kind of a tulip kind of shaped pipe which he makes, which is kind of his own. He made it his own, and he does a great job. So I'm looking forward to interacting with them and getting some advice to help me along. I must be honest that I find the Gumnut, Hector, thank you. How are you doing? Smoking pipes with filters. I find I prefer using the filter and find no major difference in taste. That's I'm fine. I'll do. Cool. I smoke with a filter. I have done now for over a year. And I can't see myself really ever going back to smoking without a filter. What's that, Chad? I thought, never mind. What? Hey up. Tim, I wanted to ask you what you thought, and Hector as well. You guys may have commented, I don't remember all the comments, about that video I did on Anne Widdecombe. Did you guys take offence by the supposed comparison she made? Hey Kenjiro. Yeah, I think I'd agree with you overall that it was a poor choice of words. But I don't think I not because I want to make light of slavery, but I just didn't think it was such a grave travesty of a statement. I don't think anybody was saying that they're on the same level. It's just, rebelling against your oppressors, that's all. It's an example of it, a much more extreme example, but an example nonetheless. That's how I took it anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, David, before I switched over to filters, that's what I managed most of the time. I smoked Northwoods and things like that. Yeah, Titanic, you'll something you'd probably want to get into. It was a misjudged statement for sure, but it's not the end of the world. Like I said in my video, if she was to have, instead of used slavery, if she would have, say, compared it to the Warsaw uprising, to the Warsaw Ghetto, and I was questioning myself at the time, on the spur of the moment, whether or not I would be offended by it. And it's obviously, it'd be difficult to be objective because it's a discussion I'm having without it having happened. Yeah, absolutely, Hector. But I think maybe initially I might be offended and then realise that there are parallels, but not necessarily in degree. And I suppose nowadays you have to be just so careful because of the snowflake society. You have to be so careful with the language that you use. Or you can be like Anne Widdecombe and not give a hoot about what anybody else thinks and say what you think. No, I'm not on Twitter at all either. I've got enough not waste, but certainly consume enough social media as it is. Chad, not sure I agree with that. Because I think that people use analogies all the time to explain themselves. I think it's a powerful tool sometimes, but I think one has to be careful. If it's a complicated topic, maybe, then an analogy, an example, is a very useful tool. RAF the 4th. Nilton Chica. Welcome. Yeah, I think this was from La Don Mott. Made this La Gloria Cubana, Tampa. Throw some over here, Hector. Somehow I doubt it's Tim. Well, we don't want to get too political here. Oh, no, salty and sweet, surely. Flake and mixture are different. I personally prefer the mixture most of the time, but I've been slowly getting into the flake a little bit more. Yeah, I think, Chad, I would agree with you on that. I think that, like I said in the video, it was a poor choice of words. It was a poor example. But examples can be helpful. Yeah, me too, Tim. I'm not great on politics. I think I did see it, Tim. I think I did. Have you smoked it already? Cole, I'm not a huge outdoor smoker. I do when I go out, sort of spending, say, the afternoon out with the family and that kind of thing. But I prefer smoking indoors or in my car. I find that possibly it's just the lack of focus, when you're smoking outdoors. Unless I'm sitting down at an outdoor restaurant or something like that. But otherwise, if I'm walking, some people love lunting with a pipe. It doesn't work as well for me. I'll still do it, but it just doesn't work as well. Well, I haven't checked my Instagram since yesterday. It's nice to see Chris back on Instagram. Calls himself Downhill Man UK now, which I think was his original handle on YouTube years ago. Kenjiro, it's a very challenging media to use, I must be honest. I'm not an experienced pipe maker, but certainly the mortar that I've worked with has been challenging. For two reasons. For drilling, you really need to have a very stable platform on which to hold the block. So I don't know if you've got a drill press or something like that. And sanding also is a lot harder than briar. It takes much longer. This is a mortar pipe I made a while back. Haven't smoked it yet. Might well pass it on to somebody, we'll see. But I did find it quite hard to work with. And I tried to freehand drill a mortar pipe that I started recently, that futuristic shaped one, and it started to chew up the mortar, so I stopped. I'm going to be hopefully getting some better quality chamber drills, so drill bits. So hopefully that will be better anyway. Oh right, okay, cool. Then go for it, Kenjiro. If it's a pre-drilled, you just have to be patient with the sanding. What will you be using for sanding? My mic is fading? Shouldn't be. My mic shouldn't be fading at all. It's in exactly the same spot as it's been all the time. I don't wear it anymore because of the feedback that I used to get, so it's now clipped onto my phone stand. Yeah, maybe refresh it. It shouldn't have a buzz either. Hang on, let me just separate it a bit. If you're getting a buzz, it might just be the fan background noise because I have an extractor on. Somebody left me a comment on one of my older videos complaining about the background noise. What does he want me to do? Sit in a cloud of smoke? I'm in a very small room and I need extraction, otherwise I won't be able to breathe. Hector. Hecty Wecty. The window is open actually, as well as the extractor. And what it does is the extraction hopefully makes a bit of a cyclone of air, so dragging in fresh air from the window and taking it out through the extractor. That's my theory. Whether it works or not, I don't know. Before, in the days before I used the microphone, it used to be a lot worse. Actually, in the car, I really need to sort out something in the car. I do feel bad. Sometimes I listen back to the videos before I upload them. I do feel bad because the noise of the car is very distracting, and my exhaust is still blowing despite a repair, and I think I'm going to have to replace the exhaust, but it's not high on my priority list financially at the moment. But well, it is kind of a fan in the window, not a regular fan. I've got it's an extractor in the wall which I've installed. It's a proper extractor, like a bathroom extractor. It's a centrifugal extractor which just drags the air out. No London smog, hopefully. No, hopefully not. Well, this Danish Pipe Shop blend, I've only got the one. I mean, I've got some ones which I've tried in my Tupperdoors, the baggies, which I've tried in the past and never gone back to. Latakia blends, I think they were. But this Vintage Flake is great. I'm loving it. I'm sure you won't be too happy by the person who organised it, but what can you do? You got to do what you got to do to get the tobacco that you need. Needs must. But it's been a perfectly good interaction, actually. I don't know what led to the animosity between you two, but that's a shame, but that's life. How you doing, Jimmy? Cool. In terms of, are you inhaling the pipe tobacco? Not inhaling. Well, are you smoking indoors or outdoors? What's the environment that you most smoke in? Have you gotten yourself a new pooch yet, Jimmy? And how often do you smoke a pipe? Cool. Well, good luck with that, Jimmy. 5-6 bowls a week. Well, that really shouldn't have any adverse effects on you, but I suppose everybody has different tolerances when it comes to nicotine. Just try different tobaccos, different pipes. Maybe stay off the aromatics for a while and try purer tobaccos, see if that makes a difference. But what I would suggest is maybe stay off a pipe for a few days and then start with something different, just to give it a chance to clear up. David, have you been to any pipe clubs at all to try smoking with other people, see how that goes? When I say that I enjoy smoking on my own, it's simply because the majority of the time I am smoking on my own. But when I do get a chance to smoke with other people, it's a lovely experience. But I will be honest with you that the spirit of the moment for me takes over from the pipe smoking. In other words, the fact that you're with people who smoke a pipe and you can talk about it, you talk about tobaccos, talk about pipes, it actually distracts me from the pipe smoking. So a lot of the times when I go to the Pipe Club of London, we'll be chatting and talking, but there'll always be a few people who are not talking and just sort of taking it all in, but sitting there smoking their pipes calmly and enjoying themselves. Whereas I'm usually interacting with other people or recording or just being busy. And I'll sometimes, the Nottingham Pipe Show is a good example. I'm sort of busy sort of visiting different tables and talking to people and recording. I think that at the Nottingham Pipe Show I was there for maybe 2 or 3 hours. I'm not even sure I had a full bowl of tobacco the whole time that I was there. And part of the problem is that it's kind of become sort of second nature for me to record the things that I do. And that kind of just sort of takes over. So at the last pipe show, I think I was recording more than sitting, whereas the first pipe show that I went to, I did sit and talk for quite a long time. Do I find it to be the highlight of my day? Well, I guess it depends on what I'm doing on that day, but generally speaking, it does occupy my mind a lot. I must be honest. Hi, Chris. So, when I'm not smoking, if I'm in company, let's say I'm at a wedding, not necessarily working at one, but even as a guest, and if you're indoors in any kind of situation, and as a audience member or just as somebody taking part in something, I'll often find my mind wandering to pipe smoking, whether it's pipes or whether it's in my mind now about making pipes, the type of shapes that I'd like to make, and it's almost a constant companion. I don't know if that makes any sense. I wouldn't say constant companion, but it's a reliable companion. If I'm ever sort of feeling whether I just want to zone out from something that I'm doing, I'll just sort of allow my mind to wander over to some aspect in connection to pipe smoking, sometimes cigars, but mostly pipes. Well, I don't think any amount is too often, to be honest, unless you're sitting across the table from your family and they're talking to you and you're ignoring them because you're thinking about pipes. That might be too often. But I do find that I have to control myself sometimes when family are around not to go out to the garage and work on pipes. At the moment, that's still quite a novelty for me, and that is certainly a highlight for me. That I will agree to. I just love sitting out there working in my workshop. If I could give up my work, I would do it tomorrow. I literally would. If I financially could do it, I would do it. How's the new tobacco cupboard going, Josh? Is it full yet? Mm. All the best, Tommy. Have a good weekend. 10 tins, Josh. Ooh. What did you get? Oh, no, 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 Jimmy. My stems are useless. Absolutely useless at the moment. Um, uh, 4 Daniel Flake and 6. Whoa, where did you pick those up, Josh? Thanks, Jimmy. It's really just the beginnings. When I, on a video, the pipes look good, but they're really pretty poor. For somebody who doesn't carve and looks at it, will see a finished product and think that it looks great, and that's absolutely fine. But when you look at it close up, they're really quite poor. And you take this one for example. Hey George. So up to that point, I'll grant you that it looks nice. It's not really in balance with the pipe, to be honest, but I was just experimenting. It doesn't really suit the pipe that well, but up to this point it's fine. But once you get to this point, it's an evolution. It's I'm happy with it because it's part of my journey. It's too narrow. I've obviously trimmed that too much. And hey Phil. Table at Nottingham Pipe Show. That's an idea. But I find it to be just it's too narrow. There's a lot of dings and sort of not smooth areas. How long have I been dabbling with it? Well, I've dabbled with it. Started with kit pipes, pre-drilled pipes, a couple of years back, but I only did 1 or 2 over the course of a couple of years. But really seriously getting into it, about 6 months. I think I bought the lathe. When did I buy the lathe? Could it be 6 months already? I thought I bought it around December time, but I can't be, surely. I don't think it was. I did do some kit pipes, which I think Art bought one and somebody else bought one. It may have been OCD, I can't remember. No, I don't remember who it was. But I don't think that I've had the lathe that long. I think the lathe I've probably had 2 or 3 months. Good night, Suffolk. Thanks for joining. I think the lathe I've had 2 or 3 months, and that's really when I've seriously gotten into it. Actually, it'll be around the time that I did that live video of making a pipe. So it would have been maybe a week or 2 before that, because I didn't have a chuck initially. Claude. Yeah, that makes more sense, Josh. And I must be honest that I think my biggest issue is that I'm still at the sort of kid in a sweet shop, in a candy store kind of stage. and I just want to get into a piece of briar almost every day, and I'm holding myself back because I'm sort of marching through the briar that I've got. I haven't got that much. I bought 10 pieces or 9 pieces from Ian Walker, and I've already gone through I think 3 of them, maybe, or 4 of them. So if I could, if I wanted to, go through a piece a day, but as Jeremiah and Phil have been telling me, is stop, because you're just, I wouldn't say wasting the briar, but it's and he said they keep telling me that rather than knocking out another pipe, go back and perfect a previous pipe that you've made. So whilst I still will carve new blocks, I've been trying to get hold of, even to buy the Father of the Flame documentary, but I can't seem to get it here. I don't know if it's an issue here in the UK. Maybe they're not allowing it. But I've looked on various media where it is on there. I know people have seen it in America, but I can't seem to get it. I'd love to be able to watch that. Mid-Feb, February, March, April, May, June, July. Really? Okay, so that's already 5 months. £23. That's a rip-off, isn't it? As sad? Why sad? And this one was a bit of a disaster in terms of the stem. The shape, considering it's the first time I've done anything like this, I was happy with the shape of this one. Although somebody on Facebook said he thought it was a bit phallic. But the stem on this one, this bit here is great. The way it lines up and shaped, and the flow of the lines goes there. But the stem, beyond that point, is a disaster. I cracked it there, hole there. But this bit actually worked out pretty well. The shaping of the bit was actually not bad. Not perfect, well, not bad. As I say, it's all an evolution, so every pipe under my belt is another step towards the next better pipe. It's Richard Carlton Hacker. I must say, a lot of people sort of attack his book, but I actually like his book. I think his book is a very enjoyable read. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the transition is really nice. I was happy with it, with the way that worked out, but it really went downhill from there. See, the problem is that I'm making my pipes with 9mm pegs. So, and I just each time I make a pipe, I realize another step that I've got to remember when I'm making the pipe. And you've got to keep in mind the depth of the peg that gets glued inside the stem. So that becomes like a hard stop. So when you try to bend it, it can't bend the inside of the 9mm peg. So what happened was, when I warmed it up, it just snapped off. So I super glued it and left it straight rather than a bent stem. So it's smokable. It's perfectly smokable. But it's not good. Which one? Phil, this one or this one? Right or left? No, Daniel, I haven't watched it yet, I'm sorry. I At least I don't think I have. I might have watched a minute or two of it, but I didn't manage to get through it. I don't recall. I'll have to have another look. I think the challenge when you're writing about pipes is that you can write a book that's going to end up being extremely dry. When I read some of the Richard Dunhill's books, that's what I find. I think it's really almost like a catalogue, and it's not an entertaining read. And I think that purists would rather have the information, but I'm not a purist. I'm a very superficial kind of guy, and I do enjoy his delivery. Richard Carlton Hacker's delivery. He gives you a lot of information, but as a fan, you can see that he's a fan of pipe smoking. So this one, obviously, the grain speaks more than anything else, but the shape worked out very, very well. It's an extremely clean piece of briar. The drill worked out beautifully, and I went for a bit of a, not because I was getting rid of any sandpits. There were no sandpits at all, except for this one here, which I didn't try to get rid of. But I just went for some faceting to make it interesting, and I really love the shape of it. But as people keep telling me, when they're trying to keep me grounded, or trying to make me feel bad about what I've been doing, they just say to me, well, anybody can drill a couple of holes and make it freehand. Yeah, that's true. But first of all, you've got to get the holes to line up, and then you've got to finish the pipe to make it look decent. You've got to make the most of the grain. You've got to cut it well to get the most of the grain. So I don't allow myself to be put off by people who want to knock me for the sake of knocking me. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it, and I see progression in what I'm doing, and that's the main thing. If I wouldn't see progression, I think I'd get frustrated and depressed about it. I mean, not depressed in me, but depressed with the work. This one was the one I made before that, and for me, this one, yeah, absolutely Kenjiro, absolutely. This one I liked, although on the surface it's quite simple looking, but I actually found it to be quite difficult to make. To get the sides to be straight and equal, and it's not perfectly equilateral, but it's pretty close. And it's just got, I just love the lines of this pipe. I just like it. What can I say? I like it. It's got some nice grain as well. Also a nice clean piece of briar, really clean. I like the chunky aspect of the stem. This is of the shank. The stem is from another pipe. It's borrowed. I had some issues with this. I messed up the drill. I'm still going to redo this. I plugged it and re-drilled it, and I'm still going to plug it again and re-drill it to try and get it central. Either that, or I'll make a stem that's larger, and then sand it down so that it's central. Yeah, absolutely, Quaker, 100%. I've got a fairly thick social media skin, but it's sometimes, there's some people that you interact with for a long time, and there are some relationships which go a little bit sour, and that saddens me sometimes. There's one particular relationship which is somebody that I've known on YouTube for a long time, virtually from day one, and we had an interaction a while back in relation to a giveaway, and I've kind of been on a bit of a, I wouldn't say a campaign. Now I ignore it. I don't even comment about it anymore because it's just none of my business really. But there was a time when I kind of got on a bit of a high horse about the transparency of giveaways, and I agree. I had no right to comment on other people's method of doing giveaways. But there was one particular video which it seemed to be not quite kosher, and it just bothered me, and it just it bothered me that people. You see, if somebody wants to give somebody a pipe, fantastic, give them a pipe. But if you're doing it in a giveaway and other people make the effort to make a video in the expectation of having a fair crack of the whip like everybody else, and you go and ensure that a particular person gets the pipe, that bothered me at the time. It really did, and I didn't make an issue of it online. I sent them a direct message, and not aggressive, not in any way, calling him out or anything like that. I just pointed a particular aspect of his video out, which seemed to indicate a lack of transparency, and the immediate reaction was one of sort of attack, and it's the reaction told me that I wasn't way off. Let's put it that way. And ever since then, I get snide remarks on my videos and thumbs down, which you can never know who's doing thumbs downs, but there are 2 or 3 people who thumbs down virtually every video, and I'm fairly. You get a feeling. You can't be sure, but you get a feeling based on the interactions that you've had with people, and who it might be. But that's neither here nor there. I generally disregard the thumbs ups and downs. I've got 2 thumbs downs here. I can see. Thanks, Ken. Where are we? Yeah, I agree with you, Phil. In terms of the flow, it's just I'm at the stage of experimentation, and this one I don't recall why I went for this shape at the time. I don't know if it just spoke to me at the time to do this shape. I have no idea, but that's what turned out at the time. And I think I'll end up having a desk of a variety of shapes, and I'm really just exploring almost to see what I can do, and what pipe carvers out there have been saying to me, people like Phil Rivara and Jeremiah have been saying to me, is that in order to really test yourself is to do disciplined shapes, classic shapes like billiards, because you've got nowhere to hide. You've got to sort of follow. You see, with a freehand, you can always adjust things, and just whatever comes out comes out. But with a billiard's a billiard, and if you mess something up, it's hard to save it. And the one that I made, I was very happy with. The stem on that one was also reasonable. It's actually out in the garage now because I'm starting to revisit that one, and it's just a journey. That's all. It's just a journey which I'm enjoying. I'm not getting stressed about it. It's a bit of fun for me at the moment, and I'm not sort of putting it out there to sell them either. It's really just about enjoying it. Otherwise, you'd have seen me putting them on videos to sell, which I'm not. I think if my primary purpose at this stage would be to sell them, then I wouldn't enjoy it. I'd get too stressed about it. Oh, that's all right, Phil. Personal preference is absolutely great. You no need to explain at all. Yeah, Josh, I must be honest with you, I overall was very happy with the shape of the billiard. But certainly, as Jeremiah said of Bullfrog pipes, he said that, when you finish a pipe, don't consider it finished. Look at it again a day later, look at it with fresh eyes, and he's absolutely right. There's definitely a hump at the bottom of the bowl, which I could do with flattening. And I also want to experiment with finishing. Although, this, I do like this. There's no staining on this at all. This is natural. But I have a process which I go through in terms of the finishing, which brings out that grain. And But I've learnt from Jeremiah that that's not necessarily the best way to go. The pipe insert is excellent. What does that mean? I got a new bench grinder, so I'm starting to try and sharpen my tools, and I've messed that up as well. So I need to do some cramming on that, trying to learn how to properly grind down tools to get sharp tools. Because at the moment, I started trying to sharpen the main chisel that I use when cutting the briar, and I've at the moment messed that one up. So I need to redo that. Otherwise, I ain't cutting any briar. Sorry, Daniel, I don't know what I've missed of yours. Sorry, Daniel, I'm kind of talking, so I'm not seeing every single one of the messages. They are coming through, Daniel. I'll come to them shortly. Oh, the Zippo insert, yeah. The pipe I use is this is the Zippo that I use most of the time. I do have another Zippo which Art sent me, and this is the one with a pipe insert. Actually, the cap has come off on this one, but it works very well. Yeah, absolutely cool. It works very well outdoors. It depends on the tobacco, David. Yeah, I might just sort of go the old-fashioned way and use a stone. It might be safer, because with a grinder it does go down very fast, so I do have to be careful with that. The Astley pot shape. Which one is that? So Virginia or Vapors, in terms of aging, they'll both age well. I think the longer the better, generally speaking. As long as there's no aromatics in there. But if it's Virginias or Vapors, generally speaking, the longer the better. With Dunhill Flake, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, Dunhill Flake, 2-3 years, improved it fantastically. But any blend, I find that you jar up, let it get some air, and jar it up, just 3 or 4 months will already improve the flavors, I find. Oh, that smooth pot, yeah, that was a gorgeous pipe. I would have kept that pipe if I could have converted it. It was just the stem was too slender. That was a gorgeous pipe, that really was. Good night, Titanic, all the best. Yeah, the coloured stems that they're coming out with now, the Cumberland ones, they've got some beautiful ones. The one that Ian made me for this Paul's pipe is just stunning. It's gorgeous. It's like a sand color mixed in with a black, and it's just fantastic. I love it. They've got some really nice colors now. Yeah, there are adapters out. I must be honest, I'm even considering sending this grinder back if they'll let me send it back, and get one of their better ones which they have a jig that fits on. But I just thought that I'll just go, sort of old school and just use the little adjustable sort of tray in front of the wheel. But it's not ideal. I think I did a bit of a mistake. It was based on funds, to be honest. This one that I bought from Axminster was 50 quid. And to get a decent one with a jig, which is designed for that, would have cost me 150 quid, which I just didn't really want to spend. Hey Eric, how you doing? Brindle, yeah. Some people call it brindle. That's Mike at Briar Blues says that's the real name for it, but I've only ever seen it called Cumberland here in the UK. It depends how you load your flakes, Cool. Hey Gonzalo. Hi Daniel again. No, I haven't. It's still in there. I haven't checked them yet. I haven't checked the pipe, and I haven't tried the coffee. Maybe I'll do one shortly. Maybe I'll make myself a coffee. If you guys wait, I'll maybe do that when I finish my tea. If you're interested in hearing what that coffee's like. So cool. In terms of the shapes of the bowls, generally speaking, a Cumberland is basically it's ebonite. It's the same. It's ebonite material, but it's when they make two colors, and it could be lots of different colors. So generally speaking, if you fold and stuff your flake, then popular thought is that a tall, narrow bowl works the best. And I suppose there's logic in it, because you need the height of the bowl to accommodate your flake. And the narrowness sort of keeps it all together. Pot shapes, let's say a Prince shape, which has got generally an original Prince shape, will have a flatter, stubbier, almost a pot size height of the bowl, but the opening will be wider. The chamber will be wider and shallower, and I find, for me personally, those work very well with aromatic blends. I don't mean aromatics with a capital A. I mean blends which are aromatic, blends which have lots of flavors. They might have some Turkish in there, some Latakia, some Orientals. Blends which have got multi-layered flavors. You may well get a better experience in a wider pot, in a wider bowl, because you've got a larger amount of tobacco. The ember is bigger, and therefore you'll have a larger amount of tobacco, and therefore different bits of tobacco burning at the same time. So you'll have perhaps a wider range of flavors. The grinder I was using to sharpen my turning tool. I mean, a billiard is really the best of both worlds. A billiard, depending obviously on how high it is, but a billiard is the classic pipe. It's the most popular pipe smoked in the world, and it's the best of both worlds. It's in between, it's the classic shape. So this mortar pipe, Daniel, what have I done with it? It's right in front of me. So this was made from a block that I bought at the Nottingham Pipe Show. I managed to make 2 pipes out of that block. The second pipe is still in the middle of being made. It's just I found it to be a harder material to work with. The sanding takes longer. Seems to be very dense, and you also have to be careful when you're turning it, that because of the grain is much sort of, you could easily catch the grain and splinter it, because the grain is more open, and so you do have to be careful about that. But otherwise it was okay. It's just you have to be patient, because sanding it took a long time, shaping it took a long time. The grain worked out very well on this one, Daniel. Mortar pipes have amazing grain patterns. It's just a matter of whether you can finish it to a smooth finish. You see a lot of mortar pipes where the grain is open, it's not smooth, and they're finished and sold that way because it takes a long time to achieve this kind of smooth finish. But overall, other than that, it worked very well. It's 9mm, so I could smoke it, but so far I haven't. I mean, the mortar pipe that I've got, which I bought from Moretti Pipes, I'm still kind of breaking that in. So far I haven't really gotten any decent smokes out of it, so I'm really not thinking that I should be trying to break in another pipe before I've successfully broken in the first one. Cheers, cool. Thanks for joining. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Please come again. I'm usually on every Saturday night around this kind of time. And if you want to ask questions, otherwise you can watch my videos during the week. There is one or two usually each week. One or two. All the best, Cole. So that's the Brigham pipe that I got with 3 dots. Apparently these metal dots are the quality of the pipe, and I think it goes up to 7, from 1 to 7, 1 being the lowest. No, is it 7? Possibly 7. And then they changed it to numbers. Yeah, so they also put, see if you have a look on the pipe, can you see the 302? So the 3 is the same as that 3 there, the 3 dots. I was actually reading that just today, funnily enough, in a very old, I think it's a 2003 or 2004 edition of Pipe and Tobacco magazine. There's an article in there about Upshaw, James Upshaw pipes, and there's also an article about the Brigham when it was still in Canada, when they were still made in Canada. And that magazine I've read, I don't know how many times. I've read it so many times, and I mislaid it for a while, and I've been looking and looking and looking for it, and I just found it last night. So I've been reading through that again. It was 2 magazines. It was that magazine and an old catalogue, an old American pipe catalogue, and that catalogue is just phenomenal. It's in colour, and it's just got, I don't know, hundreds of pipes, and you just, a lot of the pipes that you see on eBay now are in that catalogue, older pipes. And it's just great I just really enjoy that. This is not a filter, but it does have the Brigham style filter, which is this bit of wood. I don't know if it's balsa or what, but it's hollow, so it doesn't affect the draw, but this wood absorbs a lot of the moisture. I haven't tried it yet. It's something that I will try. My only issue is that this, just been smelling it, this bowl has got a distinct odour of granny pants, so I'm not really excited about trying it. It's drilled well. It's got a nice shaped bowl. It's drilled perfectly, actually. So I feel I need to do justice to OCD sent it to me, and the decent thing to do would be to smoke it, but I'm just a bit wary about that Lakeland essence in there. It has. He also sent me a few spares as well. these filters. Do they still make these filters? He also sent me some of this tobacco, which is Canadian, and a few sachets of the coffee. Yeah, I suppose I could do the salt treatment. I've never actually done salt treatment. It doesn't need reaming. I think it's already been done. So I think I would risk damaging the briar if I took any. Well, I don't know if it's been reamed, but there's really no thickness of cake there at all. I think somebody has reamed, and you can start to see the briar coming through there. Yeah, it's definitely had a Lakeland through it, no question about that. And which is why I don't want to smoke it. You know what, Hector? I've got a couple of pipes where I've literally smoked a Lakeland once through it, just once, and the legacy is there. You know, it's really quite frustrating. And the odd pipe I've converted to Latakia because of that, and it frustrates me that I have to do that. But it's a hassle. Yeah, I mean, I'll at some point I will do that. Maybe sand the inside. Alcohol treat it, maybe do salt treatment. I might do all of that kind of stuff, but that's the devil's own aroma, that stuff. Well, it seems to be something which is exclusive to Canada. It says on the back, made in Denmark for Scandinavian Tobacco Group Canada, with a Canadian address, so I don't know if it's exclusive or not. It's a good job you said, excuse me, Hector, because I was extremely offended, almost tyrannized by that language you used. I got these in the other day, Dremel bits. This is to create the beginnings of the fluting, or whatever you want to call it, on the top of this one. Actually worked out pretty well. It's not focusing very well. Good night, Carl Delta. That's always the risk, pipes and pictures. That's always the risk when it comes to buying on eBay, or any estate pipe which which you can't hold in your hand before you buy it. That's always the risk. Overall, I've been fairly lucky. I've only had the odd Lakeland pipe, but most of the pipes have been okay, either Latakia or Virginia, or some mild aromatics overall. So I've been lucky. Alright people, I think we're going to wrap it up, unless somebody wants to bring up any other topic. You get tongue bite from Lakelands. Yeah, so Daniel, that's what I do sometimes with Latakia. But some pipes, I don't smoke Latakia as much as I used to, so I'm not necessarily wanting to smoke Latakia in the pipe. I'd rather smoke Virginias or Vapors. But sometimes that's the only option I've got left, is to smoke Latakia in it. I think I did that recently with a pipe. I don't remember which one it was though. Anywho, thanks very much everybody. Thanks John, thanks Meeks, thanks Phil. Tree, David, Josh, Hector, Tim, Caldelta, Daniel, Monclaude, and everybody else. Thank you very much for joining. I wish you all a wonderful weekend. And I guess we'll see. Yeah, we'll do the coffee maybe next time, Daniel. Or maybe I'll do a separate video for it and record it rather than on the live. That way I can sort of focus on it rather than doing it like this, because I think a lot of people, when they want to watch first impression videos, if I do them in the lives, it's a long video to trawl through videos separately. So perhaps I'll do that at some point with the coffee. Thanks everybody. All the best. Catch you on the next one.